that a psychic connection?
Thank you.
Can you shout it out louder? Sorry.
Casting. What was the process for casting? I thought the casting was really well done. I just want to know about how you went about casting.
Let's go for that fantastic cast of yours, including Lucas Till, Jason Momoa, and of course Stephen McHattie, another Canadian.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really, all those people you just mentioned sought out the project. I mean, the script was sort of going around, and I got a call from Lucas's agent, and I thought, you know, he not only would he be amazing, but he's right at that point in his life where I wanted somebody who, you know, was a believable boy who could become a believable man, and so that was pretty cool. And then once he was on board, the same agency called and said, "What about Jason Momoa for Connor?" And I was like, "Oh, shit, yeah, that could work."
And he is awesome in that role.
He's so good. I mean, like, because I knew from Game of Thrones that he was good. You know, you could see the love in his eyes for the Khaleesi, and you know, he's really a pretty, you know, for an intimidating guy, he's a pretty subtle actor, and in this one, I said, look, I don't need you to be screaming in people's faces or whatever. You're just naturally terrifying. So, you know, I don't want you to be the thug. I want you to be smart, and you know, and always watching. And so Jason went to a wolf rescue to study with the wolves, and they actually gave him a wolf. He's got this enormous timber wolf lives in his backyard. True story. And then he came up to me when we were in the barn. The barn scene was the first we shot, and it was so amazing to have those three guys, you know, sort of going toe to toe. And Jason comes up to me and he goes, "Okay, dude, I got it. So this is what I learned from the wolf thing. I see you, I see around you, and I see through you." And I was like, "Yeah, good, great. do that. That works." And then so we needed a Canadian to play Tollerman, and his agent, who I've known, who was my agent when I, you know, like 20 years ago here in Canada, calls up and says, "Well, what about Steve McHattie?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do that," because I worked on the movie Watchmen, and he played Hollis Mason, and he's, I mean, just a phenomenal actor. I don't even understand how he does what he does, but I knew that he would, you know, lend an enormous amount of gravitas to that part. But what I didn't realize was, you know, Stephen is literally half the size of Jason Momoa, and I had written the part to be, you know, he's very fearful of Connor, and then they got on set, and I was like, oh, Steve McHattie's not fearful of anything. And then to watch them go toe to toe, and there's a longer extended version of that scene. We had to cut it down for various reasons, but it was so glorious just watching them, you know, like Jason trying to intimidate Steven and Steven just giving it right back, and it was really, really cool to watch. So and then all the rest of my cast was so good. We really, you know, found some great actors, like Casey Hudecki. So the girl who gets beat up at the truck stop is a friend of mine. We did a movie called Devil's Mile, which came out in August, and we were both in it. But she's an incredible stuntwoman. She's a great actress, but an incredible stuntwoman. And I knew she could really take a punch and be adorable and deliver this amazing scene. And then Gail, you know, Melanie Scrofano, who plays Gail, the drunken sister. You know, I thought, yeah, maybe this is too far, and maybe it's too, like, people were coming in and reading for it, and it just wasn't working, and I was like, that's too goofy, it's not going to work. And then Melanie came in, and she did her thing, and she read her lines, and then when we were finished, she got up and walked straight into the wall, and I was like, okay, yeah, great. So yeah, so a lot of great people.
We got some more from the audience. Did we want to throw one out over there?
So, having directed now, phenomenal job, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Something that you want to do again, and if so, what's next for you?
I do, yeah. No, it was amazing, and I love screenwriting, but it can be very frustrating because people don't, what do you call it? Listen to you, and then they warned me. They said, when you direct, look, people are going to come at you with 1,000 questions, you know, every hour. And I was like, yes, good, thank God. You know, finally, they can't do anything until I say so, and so that was pretty cool. So I have another film that I've written with a friend of mine. Actually, the guy who says he's going to party after he kills Caden and gets his throat cut. He and I wrote a script called Winter, which we're talking about doing with Copperheart, which are the Canadian producers on the film. So hopefully another film here in Toronto soon.
Cool.
And that one's way horrifying, so it really, fit right in at TAD.
I think we'd love to have it back here. Do we have some more questions from the audience? Oh, hand over there.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the special effects for the werewolf.
Yeah, let's talk about the awesome special effects and prosthetics. And
Yeah, so, well, the concept there, I looked at many werewolf films, and many of them are not great, and the creature is very difficult to pull off. And so I came up with a number of theories. First of all, I wouldn't put a snout on an actor. Anything that alters the human form radically and sort of makes you think of something funny doesn't work. So snout kind of looks like a big nose on people. The claws, if they're long and straight, it always reads like a transvestite sort of drag queen to me. So they had these curved claws, these hook claws, and the ears. When they point straight up, they sort of read like elf ears to me, and so we had them angled back because when a wolf is angry, its ears go back, and it gives us this vicious aspect. And then everything was designed to go back from the face, so everything leads the eye back, so that we could keep the face relatively clear and keep the latex, glued to the muscle of the face, so that when somebody has an emotional reaction, you see the actor coming through. Like the moment when Lucas finds out that while Joe killed his parents, his face falls and it just comes right through the makeup, and it's very cool, and you get the personality of the actor. So to accomplish that, we got Dave and Lou Elsey, who won the Academy Award for the movie Wolfman, and like Lou is the foremost expert on animal fur in the world, which, if you didn't know there was such a thing, join the club. And then, and they're just masters. And so I took these concepts to them and I said, I want them sleeker than usual. I want them more beautiful, like wolves are in nature, not hairy, crazy monsters. And so they just did this phenomenal job. They sculpted these beautiful pieces of art and painted them, and then all of that fur is real fur that's been plugged in hair by a table of like 20 women in Sun Valley, in California, and so like the masks, each mask was like 60 grand, and every time you take it off, it's destroyed. So the scene where Momoa is looking over the edge of the cliff and then gets up and turns around was the only thing we shot that night. So they put him in this makeup. It takes 4 hours. He came out at 3:30 in the morning, shot for 2.5 minutes, and then we destroyed that mask. So yeah, we tried to, for a modestly budgeted film, we put a lot of money into the creatures, almost on a par with like a major $80 million film. We really tried to execute those things in a way that was special and unique.
I think it shows. We've got a couple more questions from the audience. Anyone at the back want to shout something out? Anybody? Oh, the budget question.
Yeah, what am I supposed to say, Mark? The budget was $15 million. But when you're selling the film, you're supposed to say it was less. Or you're supposed to say it's more, and then when it comes out, you're supposed to say it was less. But the actual budget was $15 million.
And I was going to ask you about those action sequences, because again, they were really impressive, and it looked like you were doing, you're trying to avoid the dreaded CGI solution as much as possible. Do you want to talk about, which I think our fans can appreciate, going old school with action?
Yeah. Well, I wanted it all in camera.
Yeah, and just talk about that, and maybe if you had any horror stories making some of those scenes, because I'm sure it's harder to do.
The prosthetics are certainly a tricky thing to work with. I'm sorry, Mark. Remind me the name of our fight coordinator, Brad. What's his last name? Brad Allen. So Brad Allen is this amazing fight coordinator, and he designed these fights. And what, and again, the rule was no karate wolves, no kung fu wolves. These are just wolves. Like, they fight with body mass, they fight with slashes, so a lot of knife fighting sort of techniques, and just the sheer force of their bodies and teeth. And so, he would come up with these fights, and they'd show me, and then there'd be like too much flipping, and I'd be like, okay, pare that back, more and more vicious. And and I really, the fight scenes are really due to Brad Allen, Paul Rapofsky, who was our other stunt lead, who was Jason Momoa's stunt double, a great big dude. And so we did that. The horror stories, just being in the costume is a horror story. It's horrifically hot. Even when it's freezing outside, Jason would carry an ice bucket around, and there were tubes that ran ice water through the suit to keep him from bursting into flames. And, but it was mostly little things. The suits were remarkably durable, but like, there was a scene which has been cut, but Lucas goes up and grabs Deke, and he's sort of half wolfed, and so he's got the nails on him, and he doesn't have the full claw gloves, and he like this, and then Deke pulled back, and then all the nails would go, and they fly everywhere, and they cost $60 a piece. So the crew would go around picking them up, and then they'd ransom them back to us at $10 a nail. So a nice little side business for the crew.
And I think we've got time for just one more question from the audience. Does anybody want something up there? Go. Okay, actually, we'll go.
If you have a question, just come up to me and I'll answer.
And you're going to be at the pub as well later on tonight?
Well, I'll be at the pub. Listen, you ought to hear my answers then.
You're Canadian.
I'm Canadian. I'll be at the pub.
Half Canadian.
The lower half.
There we go.
You.
Do you have any weird or funny stories that stick out to you from the experience?
A weird or funny story?
Weird or funny stories. I'm going to tell you, if I don't know if we'll be able to put it out, but we put together a gag reel for the film. And one of the hardest things we had to do on the film was have Connor smash through that fucking fence. So we started shooting that scene with about 45 minutes before daylight. And I apologize, Paul, if you're here, because Jason made me say that this was you. The first time, so to do that, we score the back of the board so they're easily breakable, and then it was Paul in the Connor suit had to run through, but you had to break 3 boards with your body, and the bottom one's with your ankle, and I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. And the first shot, they come through, they're chasing Caden, and he leaps over, and 2 guys leap over, they're doing mini tramps over the fence, and then Paul comes and goes boom and bounces back off the fence. Which is not his fault. It was the scoring on the fence. But Jason said, you better, if you put out that gag reel, it better say not Jason Momoa on there. and so I was like, yeah, okay. But so he bounced off the first time. Second time, scored it better. They're chasing after Katie, he's bouncing and bouncing, and Paul comes along and bam, bursts through the fence, and it's fantastic. It's just perfect, flawless, and great because the sun is coming up in 10 minutes. And then we play it back, and one of the wolves is coming back from craft services with soup. And I'm watching the monitor, and I said, "What the fuck was he doing there?" And all the Canadian crew was like, "Oh my, that's a little over the top." But I felt it was justified. Anyway, so that happened, and each time we have to put the fence back up. I mean, they have to put new boards back up and screw them in, and by the time we do the third one, the sun is coming up, like it's up. Back here, the sky's still black over here, and we did it. I can't remember what happened, but it didn't work again. So the next night, we have to get it again, and now it's Jason. And Jason comes in, and he hits that fence so hard that he breaks all the boards, but he hits it with such force that the fence posts turn, and all the other boards fall off. Like, I mean, it's just, and it's it's too funny. It just doesn't. He's just destroyed the entire fence. And I'm like, look, we can't. The amount of money we've spent just trying to get this one shot is killing me. But we need to get him into the damn barnyard. And so I'm like, okay, one more, and this is it. This is the whole thing. I don't care if somebody's got soup in the background. This is it. And the shot that is in the movie is the last shot we did, and Jason comes running through. He goes, bang, blows it all open, but his ankle gets caught on the bottom rung, and he starts to go down. And you see it in the film, and just 1 second after he knows he's going down, he just gets this look on his face, and he goes, "Wah!" And he flips and comes up and he's, "Wah!" And I was like, you're a rock star. And if you watch that shot, not only does he decide to do the flip in the shot and come up like a freaking rock star, but my friend Phil Hayes, who plays Keno, trips over the fence as well in the background. And I was like, fuck it, moving on.
Everyone give it up for David Hayter.
Thank you so much, guys.